Young chef Ethan dropped a plate of food right onto Ava, and the entire restaurant froze. In her eyes, a fierce determination ignited, one that promised unimaginable retribution. But what happened next will shock even those who thought they'd seen it all. Let's start from the beginning. On a bustling evening at Golden Spoon, young chef Ethan accidentally dropped a plate of his culinary masterpiece straight onto Ava. The hall instantly plunged into stunned silence as shattered porcelain scattered across her elegant gown. In that very moment, a cold, unshakable resolve flared in her eyes, foreshadowing a reckoning that would change everything once thought unshakable. What happened next would astonish even the most seasoned observers. Let's begin. The dining hall of the Golden Spoon exuded an atmosphere of impeccable elegance, where every detail of the interior, from the gleaming marble countertops to the exquisite chandeliers, spoke of the establishment's highest standards. The soft lighting, muted wall tones, and refined jazz music created an almost magical serenity, in which guests indulged in sophisticated conversations and exquisite dishes. A light aroma of fresh herbs and expensive essential oils lingered in the air, emphasizing the luxurious ambiance. Behind the scenes, however, an entirely different drama was unfolding. Ethan, a young chef just beginning his career in this prestigious restaurant, found himself in the midst of chaos. His hands, skillful yet slightly unsure, worked to create true culinary masterpieces. But today, the pressure of incoming orders and the unrelenting stream of customers were turning even the most experienced talent into a hostage of disorder. In the kitchen, where the stoves roared and utensils clattered relentlessly, Ethan fought to keep up, desperately trying not to make any mistakes. His gaze flitted between recipes and boiling pots, while beads of sweat began to roll down his forehead, as if warning him of an impending crisis. Meanwhile, in the parallel world of the dining hall, the restaurant doors swung open, and Ava stepped inside. Her entrance seemed to disrupt the harmonious rhythm of the evening. Tall, graceful, with a poised posture and a glimmer of mystery in her eyes, she immediately drew the attention of everyone present. Dressed in an elegant, dark blue gown that accentuated her refined beauty, she carried an undeniable aura of authority. Her steps were confident and measured, and every glance thrown her way seemed to confirm that she was not just another guest, but a woman with a story and significant accomplishments. And then, as if time itself had slowed, fate decided to play its cruel trick. Overwhelmed by the urgency of orders and the unconscious frenzy of the moment, Ethan's overworked and emotionally drained hands betrayed him. A signature dish, a carefully crafted composition of the freshest ingredients, adorned with the vibrant colors of fresh vegetables and delicate strokes of culinary artistry, teetered on the brink of disaster. In a split second, like a dramatic slow-motion sequence, the plate slipped from his grasp. The guests, seated at their tables, collectively held their breath. Time stretched into eternity as the dish, now out of control, hurtled straight toward Ava. The sharp clatter of falling porcelain against marble sliced through the hush of the hall. In that instant, the entire restaurant seemed to freeze. Every minute detail, the glimmer in someone's eyes, the momentary shock on faces, the slight sway of wine glasses, merged into a single tableau of astonishment and dread. The guests, who had moments ago been basking in the tranquility of the evening, now watched in horror and disbelief as a masterpiece born of love and passion became a symbol of destruction and chaos. Ethan, paralyzed by fear and overwhelmed by helplessness, could only mutter a faint, "I'm sorry." His voice swallowed by the deafening silence, which was about to explode into a storm of emotions. That single moment, filled with conflicting emotions and an unexpected turn of events, marked the beginning of a chain reaction that would forever alter the ordinary flow of life at Golden Spoon. The hall, which had been an oasis of luxury and calm just seconds ago, had now become a stage for a test of true character, where a simple accident would serve as the catalyst for fate-altering change. At that very moment, when the echo of the falling dish had yet to fade, the atmosphere in the restaurant changed drastically. The shock that had rippled through the hall gave way to a storm of outrage and seething contempt. The guests' eyes, which had just been filled with astonishment, were now brimming with sharp condemnation. In every glance, in every hushed whisper, there was an unmistakable energy of disapproval. Not so much toward Ethan himself, but toward the sheer audacity of such disrespect, an offense not only to Ava, but to the very principles of true hospitality. Ava, standing at the center of this whirlwind of emotions, felt an old wound awaken within her. Memories of years spent battling prejudice and humiliation flared up in vivid, painful colors. Every instance of arrogance and rudeness she had ever faced tightened her heart with anger and resentment. And now, with that fury triggered so blatantly and publicly, it erupted with twice the intensity. Her gaze, once calm and composed, now transformed into a glacial mirror of resolve and indignation. In it, the pain of her past was reflected, and with each passing second, each new wave of emotion, it added fuel to the fire of her growing hatred. The restaurant staff, who had initially watched the incident in stunned silence, now exchanged judgmental glances. The waiters and managers, accustomed to the establishment's rigorous standards, understood that such a blunder was an affront to Golden Spoon's reputation. Even those who typically maintained neutrality couldn't hide their disgust. Their voices dropped to restrained murmurs, fists clenched ever so slightly in silent protest. Ethan, tangled in his own faltering justifications, struggled to move, his uncertainty and confusion only making matters worse. Every awkward gesture, every stammered phrase intensified the perception that he embodied the kind of incompetence and thoughtlessness that had no place in such a prestigious setting. His gaze darted between the disapproving faces of his colleagues and the condemning stares of the guests, as if searching for even the smallest glimmer of support, only to find nothing but cold rejection. Then, in that moment, Ava, summoning all her willpower, locked eyes with Ethan. Her stare carried not just disappointment, but a deep-seated hatred for those who so recklessly disregarded others. This hatred wasn't born from the incident alone. It had been forged through personal tragedies and countless battles against societal prejudices. To her, every slight, every hint of disrespect was a direct blow to her dignity. She had long since learned that arrogance could not be tolerated, especially when it was directed at someone who had to fight every day for their right to be treated with respect. Beneath the grand arches of the restaurant, where elegance and refinement had once reigned, a sense of injustice now settled into every corner. Not only the guests, but also Ethan's colleagues seemed to share in the collective condemnation of his mistake. This was more than just an unfortunate accident. It was a manifestation of a larger system in which weakness and disregard had the power to unravel even the most carefully constructed and sophisticated world. Thus, the hatred that ignited in that instant became the first brick in a wall being built against anyone who dared to dismiss human dignity. It was a feeling that pulsed in the hearts of those present, promising that justice would not be delayed, that accountability would come, and that this moment would leave an indelible mark on the souls of everyone who had borne witness to it. The heart of the restaurant pounded in sync with the brewing storm as Ava, no longer willing to endure the insult, slowly rose from her seat. The atmosphere, once filled with shock and bewilderment, thickened like storm clouds before a tempest. Each step she took echoed through the air with a commanding resonance, as if nature itself had decided to rise in protest against injustice. As she approached Ethan, time seemed to slow to its absolute limit. Her gaze, icy, piercing, and unwavering, locked onto the young chef's eyes. He, gripped by panic and confusion, was already scrambling for excuses. But at this moment, words were meaningless. Ava wasn't looking for an apology. She demanded justice. Her expression was unyielding, reflecting the years of humiliation and relentless battles against a prejudiced world. At first, her voice was quiet, like a warning, but with each word its power swelled, transforming into a deafening thunder. "Did you think your position and your arrogance gave you the right to humiliate people?" These words, laden with personal pain and deep-seated resentment, shook the entire hall. In every syllable there was a determination that had crystallized into blazing fury. For Ava, this wasn't just an outburst of emotion. It was the culmination of years spent fighting prejudice, where every act of disrespect had been another drop in an overflowing reservoir of indignation. Ethan, caught off guard, stammered in an attempt to defend himself, but his voice trembled under the weight of fear and the dawning realization of his inevitable reckoning. Ava's eyes, burning with fury and unshakable force, struck him to his core, like a hammer crashing down on ignorance and weakness. An unspeakable silence filled the restaurant, pressing down on everyone present. This was the moment when personal vengeance and collective justice merged into an unstoppable force. Wasting no time, Ava's voice rose with absolute conviction. "I am the owner of a restaurant empire, and tonight I will show you that every insult comes with a price." Her words, like thunderclaps, reverberated through every corner of the hall, igniting a sense of righteousness and the inescapability of retribution in the hearts of those present. The fury, long restrained and accumulated through years of pain, now erupted, illuminating everything around her with its untamed power. In this instant, the restaurant transformed into an arena of justice. The staff, the guests, even the silent walls of Golden Spoon seemed to become a single entity, waiting for order to be restored. Ethan stood frozen, blinded by terror and the growing realization that his careless action had triggered an emotional storm that could no longer be contained. Ava's wrath was not fleeting. It was profound, raw, and destructive. An unshakable promise that every act of disrespect toward human dignity would be met with inevitable consequences. After the deafening uproar and Ethan's public reckoning, the atmosphere in Golden Spoon began to shift rapidly. Ava, with cold determination, took full control of the situation, and her decisive actions became a symbol of restored justice. With a silent gesture to the manager, she ensured that Ethan was promptly removed from the kitchen. What had once symbolized humiliation was now transformed into a catalyst for order and respect. The hall, which moments ago had been engulfed in chaos and an emotional storm, now settled into a state of calm confidence. The guests, initially stunned by the unfolding events, exchanged glances filled with genuine satisfaction, each of them recognizing that this was not just about restoring balance, but about delivering a powerful lesson to anyone who dared to diminish another's dignity. The restaurant staff, standing firmly behind Ava, felt a renewed sense of pride as every fiber of their being resonated with the revival of justice and order. Maintaining complete authority over the moment, Ava declared, "Our restaurant is not just a place for fine dining. It is a sanctuary for those who value respect and dignity. Tonight, you have all witnessed that we will not tolerate even the slightest act of disrespect." Her words, strong and unwavering, echoed through the hall, filling it with a triumphant energy. In that instant, it seemed as if every guest could feel the weight of change, and Golden Spoon itself had become a symbol of the long-awaited triumph of justice. The soft glow of the chandeliers reflected in the guests' eyes, illuminating every corner of the room with a newfound sense of warmth and security. A quiet applause rippled through the hall, a silent yet powerful show of support for Ava, while an invisible energy of victory over arrogance and disrespect filled the air. This victory was not just about punishing Ethan. It was a firm declaration of the values that governed the establishment. Values where true power and leadership stemmed from respect for every individual. The final note of the evening marked a moment where satisfaction blended with hope for a better future. With a faint smile, Ava scanned the room, knowing that this night would forever be etched in the memory of everyone who had experienced this emotional upheaval. Justice had prevailed, and a deep sense of fulfillment filled the hearts of those present, proving that true leadership and unwavering determination could overcome any obstacle and restore harmony, even in the face of the greatest injustices.